Hey everyone, this is Mike and welcome to part 2 of my How to Gear Up guide in Closers. Last time I talked about everything that you needed to know before the Purification patch came out. Now a few days ago on Thursday the Purification patch came out, so in today's video I'll be going over everything that you want to know for Purification. Now first of all, there's going to be a quest in the Planner Gate leading you to the new area, which is up here. You can enter this portal now and it leads you to the Purification area. You've got a couple things you can do here. You can craft stuff in this thing, enhance, tune, and do transcendence in this gear booster, and then of course you have the portal that leads to the dungeons. I'll first go over what gear you can get from this, because the gear is kind of different from before, meaning because you can actually transcend the gear. So if I open up my inventory real quick, and I'll also show you one of these because this is a finished module for now. This is a tier 3 module. It can go up to tier 5 in the future, but so far tier 3 is the highest that we can go. I also have my core, which is tier 1, and then another tier 2 module that is of the same set as this one. So basically what you want to be doing is you want to farm bosses in the gate itself for your core and a mod set that is best for your character. I'll go over why in just a bit. And then with the materials that you gather as well, you can go over to the crafting station, click the Purification Ops gear, and you can craft new trinkets. Now, as you can see, I already have one set. The extreme set is the best one to keep for now. And then later this extreme set will be replaced with the 2 green ones and then the 1 red one. There's 2 red ones in here, but this one is used as a crafting ingredient for the last one. So that will make your 6 out of 6 trinkets. Later on, so don't throw away your extreme gear just yet, because later on you'll be able to merge all of these so that you'll have 1 purple, 1 green and 1 red trinket, and then you can start using your extreme gear again. Also one thing to note, that all of the receivers that you're going to be getting drop from the bosses or from the side dungeons aren't worth it if you already have a David receiver, so just stick to the David one. In the end your gear will look something like this, with like of course the other trinkets as well, but you'll have a tier 3 core, mod set of 2, and then either the David last one, or you'll get an impulsor of a random boss as well. But that is something for in the future, because at the moment my David gear and this other trinket and stuff is much better right now because it isn't upgraded for now. But let me show you how you can actually get all of this stuff. So we can go over here and you'll have a completely new interface to how it's usually been. So the bosses are on a day-to-day rotation. So today is Monday, so we'll have Monster Bird Harpas. On Tuesday we get Tindalos. On Wednesday we can fight all 3 bosses. Thursday Harpas again, Friday Tindalos again, and then Saturday and Sunday are all 3 bosses again as well. Why is this important? Well, each boss has a different mod set, as I talked about before. So this one comes from, I believe, Tindalos, this one is from Harpas, and this one is from Yot. Yot you can also only fight 3 times a week, whereas the other 2 bosses you can fight 5 times a week, by the way. So it is kind of annoying if you need the mod set from Yot, but I think only Violet needs that one. I'm not entirely sure, but I know Violet needs it. I'm not sure about the others. Now, first of all, your core can drop from all 3 bosses, so you don't really have to worry about that one. Once you find the core somewhere, that is the only core that you will be able to find. So it can drop multiple times, by the way, but I mean, it's just you don't have to go looking for a certain core that drops from a certain boss. Every boss drops the same core, so once you have it, you got your core, congratulations. Then the mod set is where things become a little bit more interesting. So you want to grab a mod set that is best for your character. Let me look real quick over here. As you can see down in the to set effect, it says Enhancement, Skill Horn Smash, Designated Sacrifice, and Serpent's Waltz. Now, Designated Sacrifice is kind of meh, even though it does get awakened, so it becomes a lot stronger. But Serpent's Waltz is really important that this one gets buffed, because this is one of the main damage sources for Levia. Other mod sets, like this one for example, let me check. Oh, it doesn't say because it's only tier 1 and not tier 3. Or actually, once it's tier 2 it already works, but at tier 3 it does the most damage increase. But basically each different mod set from the 3 bosses enhances 3 different skills. That's why you want to look at your character, kind of see which mod set benefits you the most, and you basically go for that one. Core, as I said before, it drops from bosses, it's all the same one. And then of course your trinkets are crafted, which are all the same for every character as well. So the only thing that you have to worry about is getting the right mod set from the right boss. That's pretty much that. Now, how you can go about this is, you can go in here. To enter the boss area you need an item which you can farm the materials for in the side dungeons. So pretty much you do the side dungeon and that will allow you to go into the boss by getting the material required. Now, you can either craft this one over here by getting these liquid containers and then some chromatic phase essences. Don't worry too much about these because they are going to be dropping a lot for you, because your inventory is going to be spammed full with new gear that you can salvage for chromatic phase essences. So yeah, you can craft these, or a second way to obtaining them is by doing daily missions, which usually gives you one as well. This isn't really as clear, but basically there's a few quests that will give you those. So that's how you can get them. Now, I went in with 2 characters. I did Purification on both Levia and my Violet, as there is a motorcycle going past. Let me close the window real quick. Should be better. But basically I went in with 2 different approaches. For my Levia, I went in with the approach of trying to unlock the higher difficulties of the boss fights as soon as possible, because as you can see there's like a containment level over here. But with Violet I went in to try and complete all of the missions as soon as possible. So for my Levia this isn't completed yet, my Violet is completely done with level 1 missions, whereas as you can see on Levia I've already started working on some level 2 stuff. Honestly, I don't really think either approach is bad. For my Violet, for example, because I did finish all these missions a lot sooner, I was able to get more of those entry tokens, so I didn't have to craft as many on my Violet as I did on my Levia. On the other hand though, the higher level of containment that you're fighting, the more materials the boss will drop. So meaning more materials makes it so that you can transcend your gear a lot faster. I think this kind of covers the boss. Well, basically containment level also has to do with like how difficult the boss is going to be, and how much your gear is actually going to affect it, because something new that was introduced is that you now have an average item level, and if you take this on, you'll see that all of your gear has an item level now. And that is very important because each boss fight on a different stage, as you can see up here, has a different item level requirement. And depending on your item level compared to the boss or the dungeon that you're fighting, you're going to have a damage increase or decrease. Now, since my Levia is really geared, I can just go to the highest level and actually be over geared for it, quote unquote, because my item level is high enough. But if you go in on like a newer character that does not have all of the new gear that I have on my Levia, Enhancement also has a factor in this in the item level. Because as you can see, this is like item level 105, but because of the enhancement that's on it, it's 114. So yeah, that's kind of like how your item level affects the dungeon itself. So if your item level is above the requirement for the dungeon, you get a damage increase. If it's below, you take more damage, but you also deal a lot less damage. So that's kind of like to balance it out. But of course, since everything drops from level 1 even, if you just want to go in on a new character, you can just do level 1 a lot, but it'll just take you a lot longer because the higher levels is what drops more materials for you to transcend your gear, which is where the real damage comes in. How you go about doing this is you can go over here and you can craft what is currently for the 3 tiers. So this brings it up to tier 1, this is for tier 2, and this is for tier 3, and we also have those 3 things for the modules. Now I've already crafted mine for today. As you can see, I don't have enough materials, but I can still show how it works. So you go over here, go to Transcend, select your gear, put it in, and then since this is a tier 1 core, I would need a tier 2 core enhancement, so I put that in there, and then I just click OK, and then it'll try to transcend it. Transcending is RNG. For some reason for me it has failed a lot already. I got really lucky with this one module that I got to tier 3. But this thing has not been wanting to go to tier 2 ever since I got it. Now, there is a few ways that you can increase your chances. First of all, that's in the additives down here. This one is a thing that you can buy with real money, which basically makes it so that the core that the stone that you're using will not break when your enhancement fails. So every time you transcend, the core gets used up. But if you use a transcendental elixir, it'll use the elixir instead of the core. But it is a paid item, so not everybody is going to be using this. These things, the accelerants for level 1, 2, and 3, will increase the chance of it, succeeding for each stage. So this will help going from 0 to tier 1, from tier 1 to tier 2, and then from tier 2 to tier 3. These things drop in the the Purification ops itself, both in the side dungeons and the bosses. And if I'm not mistaken, tier 1 only drops at like level 1 and 2. This drops level 3 and 4, and then level 5 and 6, if I am not mistaken. So that's to increase the chance of your transcendence succeeding. Now, there's also another item over here that you can use. This thing, again, is paid for. You usually, I think the boxes that you buy contain a few of these and then like one of these. But for the people that don't want to spend money, you can either... Oh yeah, this, by the way, keeps enhancement, tuning, and chips. And this also does not get destroyed if your transcendence fails. Whereas if your transcendence fails with these items, which you can craft, by the way, down here, these 3, they will get used up when your transcendence fails or succeeds. Luckily enough, they are not all too expensive. But basically what each one of them does is this one keeps your enhancement, this one keeps your tunings, this one keeps your slots. What you could best do, depending on your approach, is if you do not have a lot of these things, which is my case, you could actually tune your stuff, transcend it, but keep your tunings. But because you actually get a new item, your tuning count will reset. So as you can see on, is it this one? Oh no, that must have been on my violet. But basically I went and tuned a full item, and then I used the tuning preservative to not lose my tunings, and then reset the tuning count so I could tune it again without having to use one of those equalizers, because these you can't actually get as much of as if you can just get these, because these you can just farm for. So that's what I would recommend. Another thing you could do is, if you get a lot of duplicates, you could try and spam plus 13 without having to reset the plus 10 all the time. So you could just YOLO it, and if it breaks, it breaks. But if it doesn't, you could go to plus 13, 14, or even 15. I've seen some people do in my crew. So you can do it with a much less of a risk. If it breaks, you'll still have another one. You can farm them really easily. I've dropped 2 or 3 cores in since Thursday, so it's been 4 days, or about 5 days actually. And I've also dropped a few mods, so you could go for plus 14 or plus 15 without having the insurance that it won't break. So that's one of the good things that you can go for, but then of course you would use the enhancement preservative instead. So that's kind of how it works. You put in your item, you select the stone that is needed for the correct item. So if it's a mod, you click a mod stone. If it's a core, you use one of these 3 for tier 1, tier 2, and then tier 3. And you've got your preservatives, and then you have your enhancement boosts to boost the success rate of getting your gear transcended. That's kind of how that works. For the trinkets, you don't have to worry about transcending them just yet. You just gather the materials by fighting bosses and all of that stuff, doing the side dungeons, and then you can just craft a trinket, craft all 3 to get the set. This purple set will awaken 1 skill, this set will awaken 1 skill, and this one is just an extra one. Wait, no, actually it has an awakening, as another motorcycle decides to run by. Source of Calamity. Okay, I actually have no idea what this one is, but apparently awakens something as well. But basically the things that you're going to be looking at is your core will awaken 1 skill, well this one over here, then your purple trinkets will do 1, and your green trinkets will do 1 as well. that's all as far as awakenings. Your mod set will empower certain skills. Now, the awakened skills themselves are a little bit different as well. So for example, designated sacrifice is awakened now. So I'll show you a normal skill first. It has the different skill cubes, and then you have of course your optional cube. Now an awakened skill is not affected by these skill cubes anymore, but it does however have a completely new kind of form factor to it. If I go and equip my core real quick, then tail whip will also be awakened, so this one changes. Instead of it being like a grab kind of thing, let me just show you this real quick. Kind of show you the difference in between normal skills and awakened skills. We'll just go into Planarcade real quick. Doesn't really make that much of a difference. Wait, let me actually equip my David core first. So the non-awakened version, looks like this. So I jump down and then I pull them up kind of thing. But the awakened version does not have that. It will instead create kind of like a dimensional rift and do a lot of damage that way. Making it a lot stronger because you're not in a long animation. And it also does more damage, which is pretty nice. Same goes for designated sacrifice. The normal version is kind of meh, whereas the new version is a ginormous AoE that does some nice damage as well. But if I were to... Oh, actually, I don't have those other trinkets on me anymore, so I can't make that unawakened unless I'm just unequipping my stuff. But basically, that's like kind of your awakening skills. They make the skills that were, in most cases, kind of meh, a lot better. This goes for Violet as well. It made one skill really cool looking. It made Exceed so much better because now this skill itself does more damage as well. But yeah, it's basically like your awakened skills are pretty much a better version of the old skill, kind of like how EX skills are for the most part. So that's what they do. And then of course you want to be transcending your mods to tier 3, which is the highest level that you can go. Once they're tier 3, go ahead and like upgrade them to plus 13, get chips, do your tunings and all of that stuff. You can also of course do your tunings or enhancements before, but then you need to use these kind of things, to make sure that you don't lose out on either the enhancement or the tuning or the chips that you've already done before. So yeah, that's kind of how Purification works. I guess I could also show one last thing, which is Yacht. Because Yacht is kind of special. So Yacht, well, I can't really show it over here. But basically you have 3 different tiers. You have 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, which you have to unlock. So the way you go about this is to unlock level 3 and 4. I needed to do this quest. Actually, I could show you that there's 3 different quests actually. So you have your daily quests, which always give a capsule. You have normal quests, which give you rewards. And then you have your main quests, which if I complete this one, I believe it is, I will jump up to level 5-6 for Harpus specifically. Harpus and Tyndalos, their level is linked together as far as I know, and Yacht's level is separate. So to do Yacht, I needed to clear his side domain a few times, because Yacht is only available on level 5 and 6. Harpus and Tyndalos, really easy to solo, especially on level 1 and 2, 3 and 4 still easily soloable. The first time I tried to do Yacht, it took me almost 20 minutes to solo. And he also has an Enrage at the end that you cannot use iframes for, so I really recommend you do this one in a squad until you are completely decked out with like tier 3 modules and tier 3 core and like full trinket set as well. But that's pretty much all you can do here in the Purification area. You can get a new core, mod set, 6 trinkets, and then you basically try to upgrade them to tier 3 with the Awakening, which you can do by crafting these stones and then pray to RNG that they will succeed. Now, of course, there's also one other thing I should say. These contamination crystals, you can craft 10 of these a day from the different materials, as you can see over here, which you get from the 3 different bosses. You can only craft 10 a week because they're used in the as like the main ingredient in your trinkets. So I would really recommend that you craft 10 of these a week if you can, because you're going to be needing them. Once you don't need them anymore, all of the extra balls that'll drop, because they also drop from all of the bosses and I think from the side dungeons as well, you can actually use these to craft these dimensional essences, which you will need to do your stage 3, your tier 3 upgrade for your mods and your core. So that's another thing, I guess. Oh, also, another really good thing is that everything in Purification is reverse craftable. Meaning that, say, I have a bunch of materials and I want to get my core from level 1, like level 1, where it is right now, to level 2, and I craft 10 of these. Let's say I craft 10, because I have the materials for it, but let's say that after 5 tries, it works. So now I have 5 stones that I cannot move to my account bank, so I can't use them on another character, but I just have them sitting in my inventory. So what I can do then is I can use those cores to craft one of these boxes, which will refund me all of the ingredients and the money that I used to craft it. Or at least I think, is it 24k? Yeah, it is. So you can basically reverse craft even the cores to get all of your materials and your money back. So don't be like afraid of crafting too many of these. So you don't have to like craft one, try to like transcend it, fails, craft another one. You can just craft 3 or 4 in one time, and then if you do succeed earlier than like all of the core like stones that you needed, you can just reverse craft them without there being a backdrop, which is really nice. You can also, because these things are mainly used to upgrade these, if you don't need those anymore, you can just put them into these as well, which I believe are used for the lower level ones as well. Is it? Am I going crazy? Yeah, these are used for the trinkets. If you have all of your trinkets, you can put this material into these instead to get more stones, because they're used on tier 1 and then they're used as an ingredient for the tier 2 and the tier 3 materials. So that's kind of how that works. So that's pretty much all of Purification. Here are your trinkets that you can craft. Mods drop from the 3 different bosses. Each has their own mod set. The core is the same for every boss. You want to get the core, 2 mods from the same boss, 6 trinkets, and then you of course want to transcend the core and the 2 mods to tier 3 before you go ham with enhancing and all of that good stuff. So that's pretty much all there is to talk about for Purification right now. There is going to be an update added later, which has the Contamination Hell, or Purification Hell as most people call it, which will allow you to get your stuff up to tier 4 and tier 5 eventually. And then later it will allow you to merge your trinkets into one as well, so that you have like only 3 trinkets instead of 6. So that's where your extreme gear comes back in again. But for now, that's pretty much all there is to Purification. It's nice. It's a new thing that we get to play around with. It is a huge grind though, especially if you're very unlucky with RNG, especially for the higher up ones. Now, sometimes they give away the like these things, the transcendental elixirs. I recommend you keep these until you have to go from tier 2 to tier 3, because those stones are really expensive compared to the lower level ones. So if you do get a hold of these through, I think sometimes they give them away for free on the daily deals page. I also got 2 of them, I believe, through the housing, the explorations. So you'll be able to get a hold of these even without having to pay for them. But I do recommend you keep them to go from tier 2 to tier 3, because those are the most expensive steps for your transcendence for now. Tier 4 and tier 5 is in the future, but for now tier 3 is the most expensive, so that's what I would use them on myself. But yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. I hope you learned something new today. If you still have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, of course, and I'll see you in the next one.